Welcome back to another segment of About Mansfield. I'm Steve Cosio, and it is time for our little talk segment that we always do on our episodes. In the studio today is a woman who lives here in Mansfield. She is the executive director of Mansfield Mission Center, and we're going to get into talking about her travels and her life of how she eventually ended up in Mansfield, because she's, as they say, ain't from around here. So, Carmen MacMillan, welcome to About Mansfield.
Hey, how are you, Steve? So good to be here.
I am doing great, and you got a big smile on your face, which is good. You're a Canadian.
50%.
50% Canadian. How did...
Yes. So I lived in Toronto, in the Toronto area, for about 18 years, actually, most of my adult life.
Were you born in Canada?
I was not.
Oh, okay.
Interestingly, I was born in East Texas, actually near Houston, but then we left Texas when I was a kid, moved back. I did elementary school and graduated high school, actually, in East Texas. But then I married a Canadian and traveled north, which is probably one of the only reasons someone would move that far north, but lived there for 18 years, finished school there, started my career in the nonprofit sector, and loved it.
What did you do for a living in Toronto?
Yeah, so really felt called to go into ministry full time. I finished an undergraduate degree in religious studies and thought perhaps I might actually go to seminary, and then realized it was really more community development and mission work that I was drawn to and passionate about. So did a master's in organizational leadership and change, focusing on both church leadership and nonprofit management, and was able to work for two really wonderful organizations in Canada. The first one was Canadian Baptist Ministries, and I was responsible for their global mission programming.
You left Canada. You came back to Texas?
I did, yeah. So most of my family is in either East Texas or kind of the San Antonio area. So wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I had the opportunity, the resources to be able to relocate, and thought, if any time in my career this is a good time to kind of do a second start, this would be it. So sold my house and stepped out in faith and moved to North Texas, where I felt like the job opportunities were probably a bit better in the nonprofit sector.
When you moved back to North Texas, did you immediately come to Mansfield? Or?
I didn't, actually. I kind of threw a dart on the map and tried to find some place kind of centrally located. I lived in Las Colinas for 6 months while I was looking for work, and interviewed in some different places in the nonprofit sector and higher ed, and also in business, and nothing felt quite right. At the point at which my parents were starting to get a little nervous that I wasn't going to go back to work, I came across the position in Mansfield. It was then the Wesley Mission Center, and applied.
And that was when they were based out of the Methodist Church, the first Methodist Church on Walnut Creek.
Yes,
right?
Correct. Yes. And so looked at the map, figured out, I can make that commute from Las Colinas to Mansfield for the foreseeable future if it ends up working out. And got a call from Teresa Sherwood, who was the executive director then, and was invited to come for an interview, and fell in love with it. Just fell in love with the organization, the people. Teresa took me around to kind of meet the community and explore a bit, and never looked back.
At what point did the Wesley Mission Center change to Mansfield Mission Center, what it is now?
Yeah, so when I was hired, the organization was still relatively young. It was started by First Methodist Church, but then became its own 501c3 organization. And the board was really trying to figure out how to help the organization grow, how to help the organization reach more people, partner with other churches and businesses in the community. And so we went through kind of a series of different steps, but one of those important steps was being able to change the name from Wesley Mission Center to Mansfield Mission Center, because it really was more of a reflection of the whole community.
Right.
So we did that about 2 years in. So we've been Mansfield Mission Center for about two and a half years now.
And in doing so, you changed the name of the organization. You also then bought a strip center, which is where the thrift store is, right?
Right.
And you became landlords.
We became landlords, and then we quickly realized that was taking us away from our mission focus, and had the opportunity to then sell the retail center to the school district about 4.5 months ago.
Right, and we did a story on that here on the podcast maybe a month ago that you're going to start seeing some of these businesses there in the strip center start to move out and make room for the school district. But you got kind of a sweet deal because you were the owner of, or the organization was the owner of the strip center. So you guys are going to be there a little while, right? Because it's a brand new thrift center. You'd hate to have to tear all that stuff down. What's going on with that?
Absolutely. So we invested a lot of heart and soul into renovating that space. And so we're very proud of it. The thrift store is kind of the heartbeat of the organization, drives most of the revenue for us. And so we were able to work out a longer-term lease with the school district to be able to stay there for at least 6 years. And so we'll see what the community looks like, kind of where our needs are, and over the next couple of years to kind of see what the longer term plan is. But yeah, for the foreseeable future, that's where we'll be.
The Mission Center also acquired the building out on 6th and Broad, and explain what's going on out at that's the food bank?
Yeah. So interestingly, not long after we completed the renovation and moved the thrift store, we had some conversations with Mansfield Cares about the land at 6th and Broad, and undeveloped. Mansfield Cares was anxious to see some more ministry opportunities happening there to serve the community. So we started having conversations about potentially building a new facility on that land. And through those conversations, started having conversations about the Linda Nix Clinic. So just over a year ago, some land and the Linda Nix Clinic became part of the Mansfield Mission Center. Harvesting International is still a separate organization.
Right.
There are our good neighbors and friends, also serving the community really well. And so, it's just a pleasure to be able to kind of see ministry expanding in that space. And we've since started moving additional staff over to the clinic and expanding some of the resources and supports there in that location. So it's great to see, ministry expanded. And
the resources and support. What are some of the resources that if someone is in need, what kind of resources are out there?
Yeah. So, being able to offer free medical care to the community is such a huge blessing. It's so unique in terms of what most organizations are really able to do. And we've noticed, like a lot of other organizations that do more wraparound support, so many of the challenges that people face are very interconnected. So sometimes with loss of job, that means loss of benefits. Loss of benefits means poor health. So you get these kind of cyclical effects, the things that families are facing or individuals are facing. And sometimes in social services, we refer to those things as the social determinants of health. So we want to be able to provide more services in kind of more immediate ways through case management, referrals, and additional services on site to help in a more holistic way. So our financial assistance, our employment help, and those kinds of things are all located now at the Linda Nix Clinic.
I think you were mentioning to me when we talked last week off the program that it was also tax time, and you were helping people file taxes. Is that right?
Yes, correct. So we are also a VITA site, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, sponsored by United Way in the city of Fort Worth. This season, we just completed tax season, and our volunteers prepared, I believe it was just shy of 300 tax returns. Wow. At no cost.
At no cost.
At no cost. Interestingly enough, I think most people would be surprised that they are actually eligible for some of these services. So I would encourage anyone that's remotely curious to visit the website and just kind of see what those qualifications are.
When someone goes to the thrift store, what are some of the things that people donate, and what are some of the things that people can expect to see to purchase?
Yeah, so Mansfield is such a uniquely generous community. We get a lot of fantastic donations at the thrift store. So anything from clothing to sports equipment to vintage glassware. I mean, you kind of name it, we have it at some point in time. So great donations that come through. Of course, everything is inspected and looked at to make sure it's in good quality before it's put out on the floor for sale. But then For shoppers, they can expect to come into a really clean, well-organized store, which we hope great customer service. We've tried to focus on that. We certainly want our shoppers to return, and I think as frequently as possible, because you really never know what you're going to get. From day to day, it's completely different.
So if I had something that I wanted to donate, how do I go about donating to the thrift store?
Yeah, so really easy process. You just drive around back. So at the corner of Walnut Creek and Broad, directly where the thrift store is, there's signage that will take you around to the back of the building. We have a drop-off kind of carport, so it's covered. If it's raining, you don't have to get out of your vehicle. You just pop the trunk, and our volunteers will be right there to assist and bring those donations in.
And even though the thrift center is on a 6-year lease, and is there the possibility of any type of expansion within that time frame?
There really is. Initially we had thought we'd be in a situation where we'd be building the new facility next door to the clinic, the undeveloped land. Just with, the economic situation right now and the uncertainty around, kind of what our space needs are going to be for the foreseeable future, and not wanting to tackle a capital campaign and raise additional funds for a new building, we're really trying to figure out how to maximize all of those resources. So I'm super glad you asked that question, because we do have space in the thrift store that's large enough that we can bring the food piece of our ministry to that location. So over the next couple of weeks, we're actually renovating that space so that both our market, which is kind of like a little grocery store, will be situated inside of the thrift store. So it'll be much more accessible to the community. It'll be much more visible. I think there are a lot of folks that probably shop at the thrift store, if they knew that we also had food, could benefit from that. So being able to move it there is going to be really, really helpful.
And explain how the market, the grocery store works.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I would certainly encourage anyone to come and take a tour of that. We are so fortunate to have amazing community partners that help support that endeavor. So we get a weekly donation from Market Street. They're our largest donor to that aspect of our ministry. And then we also have donations from Kroger, Walmart, and Tarrant Area Food Bank. And so fresh produce, dairy, meat, things like that, families can come and shop. And I say shop, but it's no cost. And so families who are eligible for groceries, they can come and get those things. We also have pet food. So we partner with a program called Don't Forget to Feed Me. So if families have cats or dogs in their home, those are family members too. We want to make sure that our pets go well fed. And so families can shop for pet food also. And
if a family is in need of whether it's the grocery, the pet store, the pet food, how do they go about where can they find information about that?
Yeah. So on our website, there is a tab called Services. So Services, and it's on mansfieldmission.org. On the tab called Services, there's a list of things that we provide. And there's really specific criteria about eligibility. And so if someone qualifies for one service, they qualify for all of them.
Yeah.
So if anyone is in need of food, once they kind of go through that process to see if they're eligible to come and shop for free, they can also get free dental, medical, vision care. They're eligible for financial assistance, for employment help, and any one of the services that the Mission Center offers.
What has been, if you don't mind picking out one case and tell us a story about a family. You don't have to give out names, but what was their situation and how did the Mansfield Mission Center help them?
One of my favorite stories is a mom that has lived in Mansfield her whole life. I believe 5 children in the home, and she hadn't completed high school. She was working in a job that was very physical, and she was getting to a certain point in her life where she knew it was going to be too physically demanding. She wasn't going to be able to do it forever, and so she had been coming for financial assistance and for food for several years. And at some point in time, through the financial coaching piece, she realized that in order to be able to support herself longer term, she was going to need to get her GED so that she could get a better paying job. And so that was kind of the first step. So, sometimes families come in and we'll see them once or twice. Sometimes we work with an individual for years to kind of help them through that situation. So she was able to complete her GED. Her son completed his GED right alongside her, in fact. And then we were able to kind of help her connect with someone with some entrepreneurial experience to help her start her own business. So she started her own business. Meanwhile, was still able to come for food and some other things for their family while they were getting on their feet. But it was such an important thing for her, at such a later stage in life, not feeling like she had completed something. And so the empowerment that comes from that sense of completion, this lifelong dream of completing high school, she was able to do that. And then to start her own business. So that's probably one of my favorite stories.
And now that she's owned her own business, is she off of the needing the services of the center?
She is, yeah.
Nice.
In fact, she is. She's been back to visit. She's been back to kind of help speak at some different events and things like that, to be able to kind of share her story, her testimony about her experience. And then certainly she's been able to encourage other people who have been in similar situations. And so, yeah, it's been very, very helpful.
You mentioned the donations from the grocery stores. If someone has extra food at home, can the citizens of Mansfield donate to the food bank?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we do take donations anytime during business hours that when the offices are open. Non-perishable items and things like that, or pantry staples, shelf-stable items are always in need. So we certainly covet those donations, throughout the year. And, whenever groups are able to do food drives, those are often times that are very helpful for us too throughout the year.
So in addition to running Mansfield Mission Center as the executive director, you're also a student again.
I am a student.
And
yes.
what's the future of Carmen McMillan?
So, I'm working on my doctorate currently.
Your PhD.
Doctorate of Education. It's actually through the School of Education at USC.
Okay.
And
is that not a PhD?
It's not. It's so similar, though. The difference is PhD is a little bit more research driven.
Right.
I do have a dissertation, but it's very much an applied degree. So I'm able to focus on actually a lot of the work that we're doing at the Mission Center, and I'm using that as my case study and my research focus, which is really looking at self-efficacy for lower income adults, and in terms of how people are able to manage chronic health conditions like diabetes. So what are the support mechanisms that are most helpful for lower income adults to be able to manage their chronic health needs?
And at the end of this, you will be Dr. McMillan.
Lord willing, yes, I will be Dr. McMillan.
Okay. But not a PhD.
But not a PhD.
Oh.
Not a medical doctor either, which we also have at our office.
Okay. What are you going to do with that?
I also love teaching. I love working with other nonprofit leaders. I love working with our staff. And so for me, being able to pursue the degree through the School of Education is helping me learn how to help others, which has been very meaningful. I have taught part-time over the years in different programs. So that's something that I would probably like to continue to do too.
Now, you're not going to get so big that you're going to outgrow Mansfield and go elsewhere then.
No, and no one is ever allowed to say Dr. McMillan.
Yeah.
It's for resume purposes only, potentially, but
Okay.
Certainly I'm not going to be called doctor.
Okay. Well, we are glad to have you in Mansfield. We are ecstatic at the work that you do at the Mansfield Mission Center.
It's my privilege. It is my privilege completely.
And I know that Mansfield Mission Center, it's not just you. You have a tremendous team, not only of the staff that works there, but also the board members and shout outs.
Yes.
You got any shout outs?
Oh my goodness. Oh, where do I start?
And we have plenty. Yep. Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Where do I start? We have a 14-member board that are just dynamite, super thoughtful and reflective, engaged in the community, from pastors to business leaders to local other nonprofit folks. I mean, we've got a really stellar group. Our leadership team is really phenomenal as well. Just a breadth of experience and other backgrounds and gifts that they bring. and then like 600 volunteers.
What? Are you serious?
Seriously, 600
Wow.
on our roster. Yeah, it takes a big team to make that thing run. So, yeah, an amazing group of people from all walks of life right across the city that we are extremely grateful for.
Carmen, how can give out the information about the thrift store, the Mansfield Mission Center website, and how people can help?
Yeah, so we are always looking for new volunteers. Certainly for folks that want to get involved and serve the community, we have a wide range of opportunities. So from volunteering in the thrift store to volunteering in the clinic or in any one of our programs or through the food distribution, MansfieldMission.org has a list of those opportunities. There's definitely a volunteer application and a list of what the most needed items are at any given time. And certainly the hours are there as well.
Is there a minimum age to volunteer?
No, not necessarily. We sometimes have families with children who come and volunteer, especially over the summer whenever families are looking to get out and do something meaningful. So during this season of pandemic, we are certainly encouraging social distancing, mask wearing. We take temperatures. There are some very specific processes that we're working through with volunteers to make sure we keep everybody safe.
What's your favorite ice cream?
Ooh, Bluebell banana pudding. For like 25 years.
Okay.
As long as it's been around.
So that was kind of an indication that I'm kind of running short on questions. But the future Dr. Carmen McMillan, thank you for being on About Mansfield. You've been a pleasure to talk with, and we've had some wonderful conversations off the microphone too. You are a tremendous friend of mine, and I appreciate you being on About Mansfield.
Thank you. It's so much fun. Thank you. And I'm so excited that you're doing this show. I'm excited for what this means for our community, having more opportunities to connect. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. We'll be right back.